Hello and welcome back to another edition of Nifty Notions. I'm Jason.
And I'm Andrew. Jason, are you familiar with the Bologna process?
I like spaghetti bolognese, that's for sure.
It doesn't. The Bologna process is actually not about food. Even though Bologna is
I've lost interest already.
Bologna in Italy is regarded as the capital of food amongst Italians. So
Yes,
it's true.
That's true, isn't it?
There's the Bolognese sauce, ragu alla Bolognese, which is never served with spaghetti, Jason. And there is tortellini and mortadella, and from near Bologna there's Parmigiano. This is not about food though. This
Fantastic.
is about academia. And the University of Bologna, which was established or founded in 1088 in Bologna,
Wow.
is regarded as the longest, most continuously running university in the Western world.
Wow.
There are a couple of universities in I believe, in Iraq and Syria, which were more related to religious studies.
Okay.
But
Wow.
but Bologna is regarded as the oldest. I think Oxford was next, not long after that. But Bologna is always
Fantastic.
regarded as the oldest.
Wow,
So
that is old.
now Bologna is known for three things.
Food.
Yes, food is one of them. So in Italian, Bologna is referred to la Grassa, the fat one, which is food related. La Rossa, the red one, which is to do with the terracotta tiles and the terracotta ground up into the paint, which the walls are painted with. So there's a lot of red. And la dotta, the learned one. So dottore in Italian
Dottore.
is usually a prenomial related to someone who's educated. Okay, so we all know, though, however, how many different types of doctors are there? There's really two main groups. And what would they be?
Well, the medical doctor
Yes.
would be the one, and the one that gets a PhD at university.
And to understand the difference between those two and why medical, you are doing something new.
Right.
It might be incremental, and it
Breaking
usually
new ground.
breaking new ground, and it usually is incremental. You know,
Yes.
PhDs are not the big learning thing. This is like, I had a friend of mine who did a PhD in physics, and I said to him, Mark, what are you actually doing? He said, I am mapping the beryllium atom at near 0 degrees Kelvin. Okay.
Wow.
There you go. Sounds really interesting. And I said to him, this is probably 30 years ago, what's that going to be used for? And he said, well, there's this thing coming called MRI scans, and it's going to be kind of related to that. And I had no idea what he was talking about then, but clearly there's some connection.
Yeah.
And that was just incremental knowledge, as opposed to the previous degrees that he had done. So that's kind of how the way the system works. So, doctors.
Yes.
I've gone to university, you've gone to university, we've both got master's degrees as well. I think you started a PhD, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
And so when we look at medical doctors, this is an area of contention amongst a lot of academics. I don't classify myself as an academic, but I know I have associated with many of them, and many of them have looked at this and said, well, hang on, why are we calling medical doctors doctor?
Yeah.
They have a bachelor degree. And this is an interesting sort of area. And this is just a hangover from those early days in Bologna where anyone who graduated with a degree was called dottore.
And surgeons are called misters, aren't they?
Well, in the UK in particular.
Yeah. Is that just the UK, is it?
Well, it's a strong thing in the UK.
Yeah.
Certainly don't notice it here, although I've noticed there's been a bit of snobbery and it's sort of come in here. But in essence, a doctor, the whole doctor thing with the medical profession is really an honorific title bestowed upon themselves.
Yeah.
There's no other good reason for a medical practitioner to be called doctor other than tradition.
Yeah, okay.
Not saying it's not a high-level degree, it certainly is.
Yeah.
But then so is science and engineering and so many
All
other...
sorts of other disciplines.
All sorts of other disciplines.
Yeah.
So, which in some cases have more academic rigour than medicine does.
Yes.
So it comes down to this is going to be with us forever. People call doctors doctors, so be it. But the Bologna process. So in recognition of Bologna University being the first place to give doctorates
bestow
or give,
those
those
things.
titles,
Yeah.
in the late 1990s and early 2000s, the Bologna process was started, and this was to try and unify and codify the academic titles across member countries. So most of Europe has signed up to this.
Okay.
And Australia hasn't signed up because we are Australian, or we're living in Australia, but they are an interested party.
Right.
Where they do conform.
Okay.
So what they did was there was countries in Europe where people would be called doctor because they had a master's degree.
Right.
For example, I think Germany, if I was an engineer working in Germany, because I'm an engineer, if I was there, I would be Herr Engineer in my surname. In Italy, they would call you Signor Ingegnere.
Okay.
Or if you were a lawyer, Signor Avvocato, an advocate.
Wow.
And Signor Dottore, which would still go to the medical people. So there was all of this kind of stuff, which is pretty okay. I mean, just saying who they are and what their profession is.
Yeah.
But the Bologna process said, well, hang on a second. In some cases, someone gets a master's degree, let's say in engineering, and they're called doctor engineer. So this is part of that process where, hang on, they didn't have a PhD. They didn't do that level. They did a master's level, which is not a PhD.
No.
And so they then codified all this, and right across all those signatory states, now it's bachelor, master's, and PhD. And to be called a doctor of philosophy, you need a PhD, which is independent study and so forth.
Yes. Okay.
So that's kind of how it all works and how it's been evolved over time. The question is, let's write in the comments, do you think that medical practitioners should be called doctor or medical practitioners or something else? That's it for today. Thank you, Jason.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, thank you, Dottore Andrew. That was a very interesting
I'll just go with Herr Engineer or Senior Engineer if you like.
But that's really interesting. I never knew anything about that, and thank you very much for that.
Welcome. No worries.
And that wraps it up for this episode of Nifty Notions. I'm Jason.
I'm Andrew, and if you've liked what you've seen, give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe and share us with your friends. Catch you next time.